Welcome, guys. We are here today with the fabulous head promoter, Stephen Sullivan of Soap Events. Stephen's been in the industry for quite some time. Did a little stint on global radio. I think was it Capital?
I did
FM as well.
Capital and Invicta and Heart and all of these stations, which was really fun, but it was a long time ago now.
Fair enough. So we'll just focus on the relevant stuff, the new stuff.
Perfect.
So Soap Events, they have quite a few sort of ongoing promoter nights all across the southeast. I know that you guys have got Soap Ashford, Soap Canterbury, Soap Reading, and I get enough booking requests from you guys.
I was going to say, yeah, so High Wycombe, we're sort of like a lot of different places around the M25, and that is between Soap, which is like a student-orientated brand, and then Glitterbomb, which is an LGBT-focused brand.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
So how long have Soap and Glitterbomb been running?
They've been going for a surprisingly long time, actually. So Soap came about because I was originally involved with an LGBT night, which was in Canterbury, and it was becoming really popular, kind of almost like too popular. So we wanted to take some of the students that were coming to that for the sort of fact that it was a good night and put them into a different night. So Soap came around for that reason. And then that's been about maybe I think it's over 10 years now, just over 10 years. Really, yeah. So it's been a really, really long time.
It's always been Soap, student focused.
Yeah, so it's always been student focused. So Soap was originally students on a piss up. That was the
that's where it comes from.
Yeah, that was the original thing, and then we just call it Soap.
Anymore.
We don't, because I don't think some of the unis would appreciate it. But there used to be this whole element of we were in the club that we originally started it in was one of those kind of like underground, really interesting, anything goes kind of clubs. It was very much like, £1 vodka mixers, £1 Jaeger bombs. I mean, no wonder, it did well. Don't really do that anymore. And it just, the original saying was like, get dirty at Soap. And then it kind of...
It was like a play on words.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So we had a whole thing for it. So it was fun.
Do people still ask what does Soap stand for?
No, they don't. They just accept it now. So, yeah.
I thought it was because you guys do the foam events. You do a lot of foam parties. And I just thought, Soap, it makes sense to do the foam thing. I'll never look at Soap again now in
the same way.
In the same way.
Well, I mean, that's the only annoying thing is that when people turn up sometimes they're like, oh no, it's not a foam party, is it? Do you know, because they think that it's going to, they see the branding outside or whatever, and they might think it's going to be a foam party. But no, the people that kind of like know us for like the themes and different things going on all the time.
Concept for Soap, like it's a student night. What does that involve? What kind of thing do you do?
So the original thing when we set out for it was that we wanted to be the best night for music and fun, and there was no other thing other than that. So we used to have like a filter where we sat down and we were like, right, is the music great? Is this night one of the most fun nights that you could go to? And it was generally always centering around themes and different things going on, or stage shows, or just different experiences throughout the night.
Yeah.
And it was because when I was at uni, or just generally when I was getting into venues and things like that, there wasn't really a night that I would really want to go to. I sort of grew up around the Romford area, so Hollywoods and all of those classic clubs on the Romford Strip, as it was known. And they were all just, probably, garagey focused at the time, and a lot of dance focus. And there were no nights I really wanted to go to because I was kind of one of those people that don't really hit the dance floor. So my place in the club is more in the DJ box or kind of, working in them. So I think it was like, Soap was kind of that night that I wanted to turn up to, in terms of being like, oh wow, this is going on. This is happening, this is something. So it was always going to be entertainment based.
What was that like in the early days? Because it's quite a ballsy move to say, you know what, there's nothing out here for me, I'm going to put on my own thing.
Well, I think at the time, it was really good because I had a really supportive venue owner that we were in, and he was equally as mad as what some of our ideas were. So it's never always kind of gone right. Some of the things, like, along the lines, we've learned so much about how to do things safely, how, we can probably look at an idea now and be like, that will work, that won't work, it's things like that. But I would say in the early days, it was just different, and it was just getting people's attention for that reason. So
So we obviously know the events, and we've seen the events you put on.
Yeah.
You put so many different things on. Every week there's a different theme. And
Yeah.
Is it down to you to come up with those ideas? And
So
do you ever struggle with that?
Yeah, all the time actually, because you're always sitting there trying to think of something that people are gonna be into or want to come to. And I think that what's good is that we kind of have a selection of people in all of the different nights that would kind of follow us and be like, oh, okay, like I'll roll along with this. So it might not be something that they might be into, but they know that there'll always be something going on or something exciting happening, or there will be like a focus to the night. And then I think that helps us because we then can bring in people that maybe wouldn't come to us, that would be like, oh, you know what, I like the idea of that. I'm going to come and check that out and see what that's like. And then from that, they might become people who come to us regularly. So
I suppose I'm assuming there's things that have worked really well with soap because you've got so many different things that I mean, we've been to your unit, all the stuff that you've got. What's been like probably the biggest success you've had from like some content entertainment, something you put on, just for soap for now?
Just for soap for now.
The worst that you would.
So some of the best things at the moment are definitely going to be like the ball pit orientated nights, because for whatever reason they are just so huge.
Speaking of ball pits, what's the cleaning like?
So
that genuinely does intrigue me.
So we have a machine that will it sucks the balls in via a giant hoover, runs it through a big cleaning machine and process, and then spits them out the other end. Nice. We don't just leave them to be
fester,
sticky and horrible.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
right, as you were.
Yeah, but so the ball pits at the moment have been something that we've been really lucky to kind of be involved with in terms of just really trigger for people in terms of something that they want to come out to.
Yeah.
But I think that
why is that? You can get a good response from like social and posts and things that you're putting out there.
Yeah.
It's quite quirky, unique.
Yeah, I mean, I wish this is one of the things that like I wish I knew what was going to land and what wasn't, because sometimes we'll come up with an idea in the office, or we generally tend to sit around, so it'll be like an evening at mine, or it'll be over a Nando's or something like that, and we'll just come up with a whole list of things that we might want to do, or we'll look at things that are coming up. So you've got your obvious St. Patrick's Day and your obvious Christmas events, but then I think how you spin something can totally affect the way that it ends up on social media. So, for example, you might do a Halloween event and then you might combine it with a Stranger Things theme. And, a couple of years ago, that was really on point for people that were coming along to our nights. They all wanted, to see what we were going to do.
Yeah.
And then there'll be other ideas that could just be, not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but you could turn a night that is going to be like a sort of festival themed, grass, flowers, big props and big things like that.
Yeah.
And you could turn that into something with a local festival. You could tie up with them, you could do, and then all of a sudden it becomes something else and it takes its own form. So that's what I find really interesting, is what people are going to respond to, because sometimes it's not entirely different. What you've kind of got the basics. There's only so much you can do within a certain amount of walls and certain amounts of decor and things like that. So
do you ask for feedback, like from your customer base, and saying, oh, did you enjoy this night, or what would you like to see more of, what would you like to see less of?
We do, and it's always the thing where it's like what I say in the office, and that sometimes we'll be sitting around and it will take us absolutely ages to come up with something, and if we knew what we were doing, we would honestly be so rich. If we just knew that everything that we were going to pull out was going to hit. And then you talk to some people, actually, when we talk to people that go to our events, they often will request the real simple themes. So they might be like, oh, I'd love to see an army night. I'd love to do a glow in the dark night. I would love to do, the things that we kind of maybe have done quite a few times before that we might be a little bit bored of, but they aren't bored of. They want to come out, and I think that definitely people having their camera phones and them getting better and better has influenced that, in terms of they want that instant thing where they're gonna see themselves in camo gear. That's going to go on their Instagram. That is the plan. That some people come out to get those shots. If it's going to be a paint party, they want that them UV covered in paint.
So they
them
go
and their
out with
mates.
a game plan for
I
this.
totally think they do. Yeah, I think
That's
that
interesting.
you get things like I think that's kind of why the ball pit has been working so well. Just recently, I would say, if anything, over the last 6 months, maybe that's been one of the hot things.
Right.
But
You know that has a shelf life, and you're already planning for.
totally,
Yeah.
yeah, completely.
How far ahead do you plan?
So we try and plan 3 months in advance, just in terms of being really specific. And then we're always trying to look ahead and go, right, okay, maybe next year we're going to try and do a run, or we're going to, team up with this company or this brand or someone else. So like there'll be conversations going on now where we're like going, right, we're going to try and next summer hit this, or next Easter we want to do this. So there's always those things.
So with the themes, have you ever launched a new theme and you've done the first event and it's not gone to plan? When that happens, do you just end it straight away, or is it a case of it might not necessarily be the theme, it might be the time of month, or?
I think that it could be a theme, it could be the title. So it could be the fact that you can take something that is essentially big inflatable flowers, grass, and just to talk about what I was doing earlier, and you could brand it as one thing. You could try something else. There's a lot of different things that you can tie it together, but it's about finding that concept that they want to take part in. So something that's been really trigger for us lately, as well, has been anything with like a unicorn word. So you'll notice that like a lot of like shops and brands and things, they'll use that word. So they'll be like, oh, we can get your unicorn cup, you can get this, and then all of a sudden you take that with some content and you tie the two together, and then you've got a unicorn garden party thing, and then you just chuck it all together, and then that could be something that they really buy into. So in terms of things that have gone like less to plan, there has been things that we've done in the past that we would do differently. I remember when we started, one of the things that really kind of got us known for maybe the wrong reasons was we decided to do a night. We thought it'd be really fun to have a pool. It was like a sort of birthday orientated night of the club. We thought, we're going to put a pool of jelly in the club. And we thought this was the best idea ever at the time.
Right. Okay.
This is such a long time ago. And we sort of had it, on the sort of semi-stage.
And how big was this pool?
It wasn't that, but it wasn't that big. It was like maybe I don't know, the size of this room. It was big enough.
That's really big.
And we were making jelly all week. We totally underestimated the amount of work that this was going to take. And we had this up and we were like, okay, cool. People are going to be reserved. We opened the room. We thought people were just going to almost look at it. People got in it in about 4 seconds, probably. Right. So we had all these guys and girls in this jelly pit. And obviously, as a result, everything was kind of quite sticky. It was like this inflatable pool. It was up on a stage. So obviously, at one point, one of them has kind of got out, maybe someone who is a little bit larger, and the inflatable's gone like that. The jelly's gone like that. It's gone all over this dance floor. It's turned the dance floor into a complete ice rink. So we already knew at this point that there was a problem. It's like 1 a.m. No, it wasn't even 1 a.m. This is probably like, half midnight.
Yeah.
So it's getting out of hand. I think the fire brigade and the police arrived about the same time as someone was being carried out on a stretcher for having fallen over. And the management at the time were like, right, we need to get rid of this thing. So they basically dragged this pool full of jelly down a fire escape, which obviously made the fire escape completely inoperable. That was probably the biggest
brilliant
thing that's ever gone wrong.
Consumed it
so
every time you look at it.
Well, I remember. So the front of the paper was like, the paper did a big like attack of the blob thing. So we made like the front of the local paper, which I still have a copy of somewhere, which is a good example of how it sort of didn't work out. And I have avoided that, since really.
But I suppose you can. In the time, you're just thinking, well, this cannot get. Oh, it can get worse. Great. But now you look back on it and you can really laugh because that
You
is,
always get things like that.
brilliant.
Yeah, you always get things where you just don't know how people are going to react to something that you're going to do.
Right.
So it could be that you go, right, yeah, Game of Thrones, brilliant night, brilliant TV screen. We want to do a night that's dedicated to this. And you don't kind of anticipate that people are going to turn up with actual swords and then get upset when they can't come into the venue. You know what I mean?
Plastic ones.
Not plastic ones, proper, full on. You name it, they have, yeah. So it's things like that you can't really think about, or you have trouble to see how something's going to plan out. But I would say if there's anything that we really want to do for the future, it is just to come up with some new ideas. I would say new things.
Yeah.
We spoke a little bit before we started about sort of hatching onto trends. So at the moment, obviously, Drag Race UK is massive. That's a huge thing at the moment. Obviously, something like that is a bit of a goldmine for you because you have good relationships with some of the people that are even participating. But would you then immerse yourself in something that's trendy or cool for this next period of weeks to capitalise on that?
So for something like the LGBT night, so we do Glitterbomb, which is a, again, sort of around the south, pretty much sort of pop-up type LGBT events, maybe not some of the biggest cities, some of the, we kind of like in Guildford, High Wycombe, Canterbury, Cambridge, it's really popular. I would say that I've always want to try and stay or stick to what I know, because I have done the thing in the past, and I think you get other promoters who are kind of like, oh, this will appeal to this demographic, blah, 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 that they don't really understand it, and then it ends up going wrong. And I remember actually embarrassingly, I thought it'd be a good idea. We had sort of an opportunity with a venue, and they were like, look, we want you to do this, we're looking for like a garagey type night. And I was like, yeah, cool, no, yeah, we'll do. I didn't get it, and it was embarrassing when A, not many people turned up for Artful Dodger, B, the fact that I just had no clue what was going on. I was like standing there and, your own night that you're promoted, and you just stand there going, well, this is great. So I kind of think you have to, I think that's one thing that I have learned from this, is that we have to stay in what we do, which is, we are so generally commercial, right, pop orientated. We are that night, but that's genuinely what I love. I love the top 40. I love pop music. I love commercial stuff. Yeah. And I know you get some people who are like, oh, I only want to DJ this, or only, when I DJ the commercial stuff, it's genuinely what I love. Yeah. And so
you still DJ on
I do, yeah. Well, actually,
photos,
I mean, yeah, I know. Do you know what? I know the ones you're talking about as well, and she's very naughty for getting them. That lovely girl that you have that comes and takes those photos. I would say I try not to. I maybe DJ once a week or twice a week, just because I do genuinely enjoy it. It's one of the things that I do really enjoy going out and doing. Yeah. But then I find that often, there's other people that can do it better than me, so I'm going to let them. Right. So yeah. Yeah.
So moving on to Glitterbomb and those events. How long has Glitterbomb been up and running?
So Glitterbomb is, I think Glitterbomb is maybe 7-8 years now. Okay. Which is a long time for in this to have a night going for. But this is the thing, is that it's always been kind of a little bit pop up. But I mean, we've always just been happy with the way that it's been. So I don't know. I think maybe now more than ever, we are trying to really grow it and trying to see how far we can take it, because I think it's just something, I think shows like Drag Race UK are helping kind of put LGBT nights in the spotlight. I think as well, there's just so much talent out there. I think there's so many like local drag queens, local performers that want somewhere to go and perform. Yep. So I think that's been really interesting to see those guys come through.
So these events are all about the performances, all about the
I would say they're totally about that. We do actually theme them just to tie the entertainment together. Yep. But they're, we try and be really careful and say, right, we only really want to do things that we couldn't do at a soap night. So we only want to, do something that is very LGBT orientated, something that is so kind of niche. Yeah. But I think in some ways that works better, because then you're really ticking the boxes of certain people. But I mean, in terms of like the Drag Race stuff, we've been probably booking the guys from the States, flying people over for maybe, I want to say like 4 years now. It's been a while. Yeah. And they've always been very niche, very popular. People have always wanted to jump in and see what they've got to offer. I think there's like an exotic element where, you're not going to see this person all the time. They've flown in a specially kind of vibe as well. And I think that really has been appealing to people.
With that, you said you can do things with Glitterbomb that you can't necessarily do with soap. As a promoter, is that a bit of a godsend for you because you can kind of flex some different sort of ideas and stuff that you couldn't necessarily get away with for the soap brand?
Yeah, I would say that soap was always kind of, more about the content and more about kind of like, oh, you can turn up and do this, you can go in a ball pit, you can have this experience, you can get this photo, you can dress up like this. Whereas I feel like Glitterbomb has got its own thing of, people turn up covered in glitter, covered in, in drag, in different outfits. It's just completely different to what we've been doing before. So I think that's got its own, I think it just keeps it interesting.
Okay.
For me, I'm just like, I love turning up and seeing what people are going to wear and going.
What are some of the kind of industry? We speak to a lot of people who kind of compare it to what it was and how it is and where it's going.
Yeah.
Obviously, I just want to kind of find out from your perspective, how have the last few years been for you in terms of footfall and even potentially keeping that footfall as retention of customers?
I still class myself as one of the luckiest promoters, genuinely. I feel like footfall has definitely decreased. There would be a time when we would completely turn our nose up at 400 people that were coming into a venue. Would be like, wow, this isn't busy at all, why are we here, kind of thing. Whereas now it's those expectations have had to change because of a few reasons. I think it's kind of changing people's habits for, maybe the number of people I think that are slightly younger who don't drink is so much higher. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they go to the gym. It's just a lifestyle thing. And I also feel like, demographically, less people going to university, less people having that lifestyle, less people in general. I think that, when you go through the demographics, you can see in a few years' time that we are going to get that spike back in terms of, 18 to 21s. Yeah.
You were saying that there's like a big spike in, was it the 13 to 14-year-olds, right?
Yeah, so I think at the moment, kind of like, if you're going to be a student promoter in 4 or 5 years' time, you're probably going to be in for a much easier ride in terms of there's just going to be more because there will be, more people available. Whereas at the moment, that demographic is all, 13 to 15.
Yeah.
So I think this point in time right now is the lowest that it's been in years, maybe 10, 15 years, so far as the number of actual 18 to 21-year-olds that there are.
Yeah.
So it's been, I think, I'm hoping that this is going to be that kind of bottom, we're at the bottom now, and that. Yeah. But I think,
are you future-proofing and planning ahead for that 4 or 5 years' time? Are you thinking that far ahead?
God, I mean, part of me thinks, I was hoping to retire by now, but it's not happening. I think that, I think there's certain things that are always going to stay on, that are always going to be on trend, or, you think but I would say that we definitely want to think about what, I think, to be honest with you, we should be really thinking now about, can we do any under 18s, or can we do anything to, for those guys, because that is just such a big market.
That's a good point. I mean, we deal with some clients that do host these sort of under 18 nights, and on the face of it, they get absolutely rammed. Obviously, it's non-alcoholic beers and whatnot, so
it's just one of those things. I personally don't like doing it as a promoter because it does bring issues with. I actually did do it in the very early days. We did do some under 18s type events, and it was all very much like, sneaking in alcohol in makeup containers, kind of having responsibility when, you can't just kind of turn someone away. You have to be responsible for them. Yeah. There's a whole load of stuff that comes along with it, basically, and it was getting harder and harder to kind of engage them because there's no shortcuts. You need to really, if you're going to really go and attack these different schools, what I learned was that they all actually kick out at the same time. So actually, you need to spend 2 weeks going around one area every day at 3:30, 3 o'clock, just to try and get, that was the old school way. I don't know whether we could, cleverly target online, with something that was going to be a bit more viral or things like that.
The idea would be to get a database of people under 18, so that when they do turn 18, you've got them, and then
but then this is the thing.
Sounds a bit weird. That,
do you know what? I always think that some clubs actually make the mistake of doing that. And I don't know this. I've got nothing to back this up with, but it's kind of like a bit of an observation that I kind of think that if you've got a town and they have a really successful under 18s night and it's all at this place, all of a sudden they hit 18 and they don't want to go there. So I think it can negatively impact a venue. Yeah. Because all of a sudden when you get those guys and they all turn 18, they're like, oh, well, we've been there, kind of don't want to go back, so now we're going to go and try the competition, or we're going to try whatever. So I think it's, in some respects it can work in a negative way, but I think people do still want to go out. They do want these experiences. They want reasons to get together. It's just hard as a promoter. You've got to find that opportunity, nurture that opportunity. You can have an idea today and you might still be, realistically 9 months away if you wanted to do it properly and really go through and really look at who your audience is and all the rest of it.
How have you leveraged social media? Because if you've been around promoting for as long as it started to grow, so you're kind of at that forefront, you're continually at that demographic.
Well, I remember when we were advanced. I remember when actually we were one of the first promoters to actually get on social media, to have an event listing, to start utilising Facebook, to make sure that people, liked us. I really felt like we were, at the time, that was kind of a thing that no one else was really bothering to do. 10 years ago, 10 years ago, we were still the underdogs of these marketplaces. So I think that when you then went on and started to build, and I think that your, edge rank, whatever you want to call it these days, was so much higher back then, because you could work the system. You could turn around and you could give someone a laptop in a club and be like, hey, look, invite your friends. Facebook has cottoned on to all this, and they know, they ain't showing your event unless you pay them a load of money. So it's kind of like, there used to be so many free ways. It used to be a case of you could take on the right people and you'd have a massive reach, because those people have all got 4,000 friends, 3,000 friends, and you would just really be able to do it in a way that was a lot easier. Whereas I feel now, in terms of the way that we leverage it, I would say that it's almost got to the point where everyone's on a level playing field, because anyone can just put money onto these things. I think there's smart ways of doing it. I think you've got the boosting posts and things like that, which are, for me, are the way of just losing the most amount of money with the least amount of impact. And then you've got the kind of smarter ways of kind of people who are going to go in, they're going to maybe, take a bit longer setting something up, targeting different demographics, writing different ads, A/B testing, all that kind of stuff for their different segments of who.
Are you doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. Different segments of who they feel their audiences are. We're very quick to kill stuff that isn't working. So if something even is, 36 hours in and we're noticing that it's not quite connecting, we'll change it. Is it going to be a picture thing? Is it going to be a wording thing, perhaps? Is it going to be, it could be one of a million things. But I mean, it's Facebook, Instagram. We are doing stuff on Snapchat because we're trying, to different videos. We think the postcode targeting could be quite relevant, especially for, when you're in a uni town or something like that. But yeah, it's, you could almost sit there and do it until the end of time, but I don't know whether there's that thing anymore of, it's very hard to make that album go viral, or that, something that you just want engagement with. It's very hard to get a message engaged, because I think people see so much of it and they just drown in it. So I think, you're scrolling through your feed and it's very easy just to scroll past that. Your analytics are telling you that person's seen it. But actually, have they seen it? I don't know.
Do you think? I mean, it sounds like you get quite technical with your social campaign. Do you think a lot of venues, promoters are doing that? From our experience, probably not a lot are.
My experience would be not. Yeah.
Do you think because it's an extra thing to do, and people don't still understand how important and powerful it actually is?
I think that it's something that people find it's really hard when you spend £300 for that week and it flops. You know, and so people are kind of like, oh, I spent this money and my venue's still quiet, so why am I not?
Do you think that you need to spend that though to learn from it? Like you say, you're tweaking the ads all the time and
so to give you an idea, our spend since we started on Facebook, our spend on adverts is over 100,000, which
in
is
10 years.
In 10 years, yeah, which I think is actually not too bad, but obviously a lot of that is going to be weighted towards the last 5-6 years more than anything. But I would say that there are some nights that I would attribute the entire success to having the right social stuff online, getting the right people, etc., etc. I would say that if anything now, the difference even in the last year to 2 years is that it is actually now so much harder to try and set things up in the right way. I think there's.
Do you do the ads yourself?
I do actually, yeah, I do because I don't know why. I've just been a job I've been stuck with, guys. You know,
you feel you're the best person to convey your message as the venue.
And I feel as well like it's all well and good, as in. Because I've got that history of it, I think because I've seen it be a very, you know, kind of basic system, and now it's gone up to, you know, you've got 10, 12 different even types of campaign that you can run just on, you know, on Facebook, let alone anything else. So I think I've kind of seen it go from kind of that to that. So I kind of feel like you can look back and go, right, I've not had a lot of luck doing this. This seems to have got the message out, but I would say we are pulling back, as in we would probably do it absolutely every week religiously without fail, like, and on a smaller scale. Whereas I feel like now we, you know, take something that we feel might be particularly of interest and we use that as, you know, to try and get the engagement up.
You said that you think people are on a level playing field now when it comes to social media. Because of that, are you doing anything offline, like offline marketing? Maybe it's not as saturated. You have any success?
Well,
elsewhere?
I think it's I think the thing that hopefully would differentiate us between our competition is going to be the quality of the social media. In terms of what goes out. I feel that like our organic stuff is a lot better. I feel that we really try and look at things that people will engage with, that are going to be relevant to them. You know, try and running it through those filters of going, right, this is what we want to try and get across, or this is the message that we want. How are we going to do this? Is it going to be through, you know, something funny? Is it going to be through, you know, but the days of just going, oh, you know, come to my night, it's £1.90 drinks and this, it's just over.
Got to work a lot harder.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost like, you know, people want to know that story. People want to know, I think, the background of, you know, what, you know, in the case of Glitterbomb, I think they want to know what it is all about, what you stand for, what you're trying to, you know, what you're trying to do. They want to know your story a lot more than just, oh, I can come out here and have a drink. Cool. Well,
social media, obviously, the main way. Are you doing anything with universities? Are you doing anything that's not social media based?
Yeah. So I would say try anything that isn't social media based at the moment in terms of trying to differentiate ourselves. So like we did a charity run over the weekend. So there was a place that was doing a glitter run. Right. So they were like saying like, oh, you know, we're doing a run that's all glitter, blah blah blah. So we were like, oh, okay, cool. So like, you know, we branded up one of their tents and did stuff like that, and you know, brought down loads of bubble machines, and yeah, I would say things like that. Or we're trying to do more things that are partnerships. So we're trying to do more things like, oh yeah, you know, if you go and check this place out, then yeah, we're linked with them, you know, associations. We are doing a lot of stuff with unis, and they are great in terms of, you know, screens around campus, you know, red bus, screens that are all around these different venues and what have you. So we're trying to do things like that, but it's hard because it's like, I'm getting even some backlash about flyers now in terms of waste of paper, all this sort of stuff.
Knew that was coming. Knew that was coming.
It's so, I did have, what is it? They did actually turn around to me and say, yeah, think of the environment, and stuff. I'm just like, oh.
Do you want to come to a club or not? No.
Well,
thank you.
Do you know what? What I like is what we try and do. I mean, this was actually the venue that was turning around and saying this to me. They were saying that they don't want flyers in their venue. I was like, okay, but it's hard. It's just another thing. You try and work on posters, or you can, we do things that we try and if we over freshers, we might do like a bigger pamphlet that might fold out into something that someone might put on their wall. So it's like, it's a calendar and it's got all of our events around it and a little discount, something like that.
Yeah.
But I think people are trying everything they can to try and do things that are offline and are kind of away from social media, because we are all kind of promoters are spending a lot of money on it, and you can't. It doesn't equal the result,
I think for someone in your position, because you've kind of been forgive me, you've been around a while.
Okay. Okay.
But you know a world that existed before this.
Yeah.
Whereas the younger promoter doesn't.
It's true.
And the younger promoter who thought Snapchat and Instagram, this is going to be and end all. Hypothetically, if that goes down, they don't know where to pull other resources from. And that's where I suppose your experience comes into it. Coming off of which, why are you still in this industry?
Part of me wants to give a funny sort of like, I don't really know how to do anything else. That is kind of true. But I think the thing that I really love about this job is that it is always so different. I genuinely, no 2 days are the same. You're always coming up against new things. There's, especially when you're dealing with themes, there's, you're never just coming in and doing the same thing, same branding, same this. It's always something different. Yeah. You're always thinking about ways to move it forward. And I think the thing that I really like in a sort of I don't want to say it in a sort of cheesy way, but I think that, when it is such a good thing when you are bringing people together, and it is away from social media, and it is, you're getting people to meet in real life. There's people across the years that have, proposed at the nights, met their, husbands, and it's like that, and meet friends, meet people that they otherwise wouldn't necessarily ever meet, and become friends and lifelong friends. And that's what I think I really like about it. The fact that you can kind of go, we put on this night and we made that happen, and everyone came and it was a feeling and we loved it, and that's cool. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, I think we're not going to top that. So I really want to appreciate. Perfect. And appreciate your time today, Stephen.
It's been wonderful coming here to Licklist HQ. It's a beautiful building, guys.
There we go. Appreciate that.
I love it.
Good stuff.